As you know, I spend a lot of time exposing the media, especially social media, and how they mistreat topics. By the time they get done with it, nothing resembles the truth anymore. The Jaheim McMillan case is the latest example, but we've seen this before with Kyle Rittenhouse and a host of others. Darren Wilson, not Darren Lewis. I got that one wrong again. I keep making that mistake. But Darren Wilson, an officer from Ferguson, Missouri, was fired over this kind of crap. So if there's anything that we need to be very careful of in society is spreading propaganda, rumor, and gossip. So we've already covered Benjamin Dixon. He's the worst of it as far as the Jaheim McMillan case. Under no circumstances should he be a journalist. In this segment, I'm going to cover Roland Martin and Mr. Rashad Richey. They're two of the worst at this, especially Richey. And we're going to now study their take on it. Now, you may be wondering, well, why aren't you covering their updates, the ones that they have covered since the exposure of the actual body cam? Well, they haven't bothered to do anything there, and they're probably not going to. That's how propaganda works. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Witnesses say that McMillan was walking out of a store when the officer shot him.
Yeah, witnesses say that he was walking out of the store when the police shot him. That doesn't sound anything like what happened. And keep in mind, this is not a matter of just getting something wrong. No, this is an outright lie. Nobody who saw what took place could possibly mistake that Jaheim McMillan was coming out of the store. We know that didn't happen. It's not possible to get that confused. Therefore, those who are saying they came out of the store are just simply lying.
Police say the teen had a gun. Witnesses say he was unarmed. The conflicting stories pushed protesters to demand that police have transparency about releasing the body cam footage taken the day that he was shot. Now, on Saturday, Black Lives Matter Mississippi and the Mississippi Rising Coalition held a rally to demand justice for Jaheim. Mississippi Public Safety Director Sean Tindall says footage will be released to the public once the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation analyzes the footage. Civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump and Jaheim's mother, Katrina Mateen, are here joining us right now. Ben Crump, I'm trying to understand, for them to say that they're waiting to analyze the footage, it happened 2 weeks ago. How long does it take to analyze body cam footage?
You know, Roland, as I watched Katrina just agonize over this tragedy, her 15-year-old son killed by the very people who are supposed to protect and serve her. We know, Roland, this is the playbook. They delay in hopes that people will forget about it and they can sweep it under the rug. But thank God for Katrina, her family, and the activists demanding transparency. We're going to file a public records lawsuit to release the video. Now, states like Mississippi and Alabama, their Supreme Courts fight to say you don't get any transparency, but they cannot deny people like you, Roland, and us continuing to fight in the court of public opinion to say, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you release the video? Because we all know, Roland Martin, we've been doing this too long, that if that video showed Jaheim with a gun, they would already released it and it'll be all over the news by now.
Oh, so in your infinite experience, you know that if he really had a gun, they would have released it right away, huh? What happened to that theory? Sounds like your methodology is a little suspect because the police did not release it right away, and guess what? Jaheim McMillan had a gun. But keep in mind, the next time something like this happens, he'll say the same thing. Don't believe me? Wait.
This reminds me of the case that you were involved with in Houston, again, where A cop said one thing, and once the body cam footage came out, it showed that the young man did not have a gun, and how the police rolled up. And so you're absolutely right. Again, we showed the video last week of the police chief sharing his information, but again, to sit here and say we're almost 2 weeks away. The family is preparing to bury this young man, and they still have not shown that. And you're right; it's very simple. If he had a gun, as they say he did, then the video should clearly show that.
Yeah, and Roland Martin, Attorney Monique Preston and I, we argued and fought to get the video released in Houston, Texas. With Joshua Feast, we're going to have to do that with Jaheim McMillan.
All right. So Roland Martin made a big goof up here, and this is something that was kind of funny. I brought this up before. Remember what I just said? That Benjamin Crump will go on and then repeat the same bullshit, that if they knew that he had a gun, they would release it immediately. They didn't with the Houston deal. And Benjamin Crump cried like hell about it and finally got the body cam footage released. Roland Martin got it wrong, though. He actually did have a gun. And that was the last of Benjamin Crump on that one. And so Benjamin Crump was placed in a really bad spot here because he realized right away that, okay, Roland Martin got it wrong here. That suspect was actually armed. But again, there has been a past case where this dude cried and cried and cried to get the body cam footage released. And once it finally was released, it showed the dude armed. He comes in later and says, we all know that if the kid had been armed, they would have released it right away. Yeah. The man is just an absolute 100% grade A liar. Never trust anything this dude says. In fact, if he's defending somebody, then your best bet is probably on the opponent.
But the other thing that is just outrageous is once they had shot him in the head, they then put him in handcuffs. Why didn't they try to give him medical assistance? Why do they have to treat our children like animals? I mean, clearly at that point, he's no threat. He's no way putting you in fear. Why don't you try to help save his life, preserve his life? Why aren't you using your training and professionalism for this black life? Why do you treat it as if it has no value? Where is the humanity? And I think that's why Katrina's having such a difficult time when she processes it all. And we just have to continue to pray for the family and fight for justice for Jaheim.
They're not fighting for justice for the cop, though. It's only for Jaheim. And he talks about where's the humanity in the way they treated this kid? Where's the humanity in the way that they treated the cop? They branded him a liar outright. They haven't seen the video footage yet. And yet they want that dude convicted already. There's no humanity there. If he goes to prison for the rest of his life, they would absolutely fabricate evidence to get that man convicted. Anybody out there who thinks they wouldn't, then you're naive. This dude would absolutely do it. And there's no humanity for the cop. They don't care if the guy loses his job. Darren Lewis lost his job as a cop in Ferguson, Missouri. And it was totally unfair. It was based on a total lie. You think this guy cries about it at night? No. Also, there's this issue that if it was a white kid, the humanity argument goes away. Christopher Rope in Georgia was shot simply for holding a Wii controller as he answered the door by a cop. This guy doesn't give a damn. Forget this humanity crap. I'm tired of it.
Katrina, obviously, whenever these cases happen, police, they have one perspective, how to try to frame who the individual was. For folks who don't know, tell them who your son Jaheim was.
They try to frame the suspect. Well, what about the cop? You have no trouble framing him.
Jaheim, he was a lovable person. He was a good brother. And he loved his friends. He's my son. My son he was not disrespectful.
Yeah, I think he was disrespectful. Riding around in the back of a car waving a gun at people, I think that's disrespectful. And keep in mind, as I said before in my other video, she's not claiming that this behavior was unlike him. She's not claiming, well, I don't think my son would ever do something like that. He's never been in trouble. She's not saying that. All she can say is he wasn't disrespectful. That should have told everybody there was something up. And I said it last time. I knew that this kid was guilty. And also, I have a very hard time believing that a kid that's riding around in a car with stolen guns, waving them at people, and we saw how he reacted to the police, right? I have a really hard time believing that she doesn't know that her kid was an absolute thug. I have a feeling that kid's been in a lot of trouble. Can't prove it, but I put my money on it.
Well, I don't want to. I want folks to understand that, again, when these things happen, Ben Crump, these are human beings. These are individuals who are children, who are nephews, nieces, cousins, siblings, and they're simply not just another random case. And I think it's important for folks to understand that they also go beyond just being a hashtag. And I totally understand it is very difficult for Katrina to have to talk about her son in the past tense, if you will, because he's lost his life. And that's one of the points that I consistently say, Ben, you can't come back from death. And
yeah, that's a really nice thing to say to a mother who's just lost her kid. You can't come back from death. Oh, nice, Roland.
And too often we've seen where force was used, unfortunately, taking the lives of many young black men. And that's why it is important for police to be forthright and honest about what took place at that particular convenience store that led to the death of Jaheim McMillan. Ben, final comment.
Roland, thank you for continuing to put a spotlight on Jaheim McMillan. Obviously, Gulfport police is acting as if he doesn't matter, but you can see to Katrina, he matters, to their family, to their community matters. And thank God, Roland Martin, for you and the audience of people all over America who watch your show every day, especially black people. Let's continue to fight to get to truth and transparency. So hopefully we can get justice for Jaheim. That's what Katrina wants more than anything, that her son's death will not be in vain, and that these who killed him, I mean, he's 15 years old, for God's sake, should be held accountable for taking him from this earth far, far too soon.
So the man's convicted already. The cop is convicted. That's in his mind. He hasn't seen the body cam footage yet. Oh, and by the way, after Jaheim's mother saw the video, this was some weeks ago, we never heard from Benjamin Crump ever again on this case. He just disappeared. And I said it at the time. I said, if Benjamin Crump is leaving the scene, there's nothing there, because this is an ambulance chasing lawyer. He has no interest in anything that's not going to make him a lot of money. And he probably hasn't returned any calls from Jaheim's mother in weeks. I don't understand. Why doesn't he pick up the phone? Yeah, well, you don't mean anything to him anymore. Why? Because your kid's a thug, and he knows that he can't win. I actually don't have any real personal problems with Roland Martin. He doesn't get underneath my skin like this dude. This man is a #1 grade A phony. He's got a phony PhD, he's got a phony EDD, and he is despicable. This is Mr. Rashad Richey, and no, I don't call him doctor. In my opinion, he doesn't have a real doctorate. At any rate, let's listen to him weigh in on this.
Put up the picture of the young man full mask. Jaheim McMillan, 15 years of age, killed in Gulfport, Mississippi. Advocates are saying the cop who killed him should be terminated and arrested.
Screw them. We don't care what they say.
Because this young 15-year-old posed no threat. This African-American 15-year-old died after police shot him in the head outside of a Family Dollar in Mississippi, October 6th. They accused him of having a gun. I'm going to show you a graphic photo of the reality of what this young 15-year-old went through.
I actually like Tommy Sotomayor's idea. Instead of showing us the hospital bed, lay his body out on the street and make every school child walk right by it and tell them this is what happens when you run from the police. I'm just joking. I don't really think they should do that.
15-year-old shot 8 times and 1 bullet went through his head after someone made a call and claimed teens were waving guns. Police still proceeded to handcuff him and put him on the ground after he was shot. A photo surfaced.
By the way, I should say that if you have a real problem with them handcuffing shooting victims, then why don't you focus your efforts on changing the policies on that? That would actually be something productive, not this crap. You're just spreading misinformation here. That's not helpful at all. But if you want to work with the EMS unions and the police unions about coming up with new policy guidelines on that, then I would applaud that. That's how it's supposed to be done.
Of the incident. The advocates, the community leaders, including people like Ben Dixon, my dear brother, who actually was one of the first to report on this. And I had some back and forth conversation with Ben. Benjamin Crump is now representing the family of this young dead teenager and calling for the footage. This was on Monday. They held a news conference to say that they have video from a nearby business that shows the teen with his hands raised in front of the Family Dollar, complying with the commands of the officers on the scene. They say the video shows officers jumping out of the car, running and shooting at the young man. That's according to those who were there.
According to those who were there. And they also saw video footage that showed how many believe that story, right? Really? There are people who saw video footage of what took place, keeping in mind that none of that video footage ever surfaced anywhere, but they got to see it. Liars. They're all liars. And again, this is not just exaggerations or misunderstandings. They didn't see anything and they created the story out of thin air. Because, as we saw in the Michael Brown case, they wanted to be a part of something. That's what the witnesses in the Michael Brown case said. They wanted to be a part of something, a lynch mob.
There's more. Let's go to Carl Soto, activist, vice president of Black Lives Matter Restoration Polk Inc., says there are credible witnesses that say this young 15-year-old, who's dead now, had his hands up before the shooting took place.
There are credible witnesses who said that he had his hands up. So how did you establish the credibility of these witnesses? And I'll tell you how they did it. Because they all agree that the cop was in the wrong. That's how they measure credibility. They don't even know the witnesses' names. I can guarantee you. They don't know anything about them. Nothing.
There's another eyewitness. Let's put her picture up. Uber driver. Her name is Deborah. Deborah Stout told the Mississippi Free Press, and I quote, "I did see him come out the front door with his hands up. And that's when he was shot. My mom was like, what the hell's going on?" She said. I'm going through PTSD right now. I can't sleep. My anxiety is up. I'm very depressed. Let me remind you of why Deborah's eyewitness account is so compelling.
Oh, let's listen to why it's so compelling.
She has no dog in the fight, so to speak.
No, she has no dog in the fight. Never mind the fact that she might be very politically driven. that is a dog in the fight. When it comes to these kind of events, man, there is always a dog in the fight. Don't give us this crap. You supposedly don't have a dog in this fight either, right? How many out there think that he has no bias whatsoever in this because he has no dog in this fight?
She was driving for Uber. She did not expect to see something like this. And not only did she see it, she decided to be brave enough to tell somebody about it.
She's so brave. She didn't see it. She couldn't have seen it. We saw the parking lot. There was nobody there. Furthermore, her story doesn't match at all with what happened. She claimed that Jaheim McMillan came out of the store. He didn't. He came out of that car. She also claimed that he had no gun. He did. She didn't see it at all, everybody. What happened? She showed up. She heard what the popular narrative was going to be, and so she made up the story. And he buys it completely. Where's the critical thinking skills of this person who supposedly has 2 doctorates? I thought that getting a doctorate required that you check your sources and being very careful about what you put down, and you don't put anything in there that you're not certain about. And I kind of should know. I have one, and I have a real one, not that crap that he got.
She's standing by her eyewitness account. Let's put up the police chief. His name is Adam. Adam Cooper told reporters at an October 11th news conference, and I quote, "One of the officers observed McMillan, who was armed. The officer gave orders to McMillan to stop and drop his weapon. McMillan did not apply. McMillan turned his body and weapon toward the officer. The officer fired at McMillan." That's what the chief said. Advocates are now calling for the termination of the police chief after implicating this child for his own death.
They want the police chief fired for telling the people what the police officer told him. And guess what? The cop was right. Now, did the cop get everything perfect? Well, maybe there's a little bit of exaggeration here or there, but the basic elements were there. Yes, Jaheim McMillan was armed. Yes, he did turn towards the cop. Whether he was actually pointing the gun at the cop, we can't say for sure because he was behind a car. But this is where the critical thinking skills completely evaporate. So you have to think about this, everybody. If you're a cop, first of all, you have a body cam on. Number 2, there are other cops there that have body cams on, plus dash cams, plus you have a video from the store. So after you get done shooting somebody, you're probably not likely to really lie outright. You might exaggerate a little bit, but if the kid didn't have a gun, for you to claim he did have one is a little bit problematic. And therefore, police officers, typically their stories check out. I know everybody's going to say, oh, they always lie. No, actually, in the vast, vast majority of cases, the report of the police officer is actually correct.
Ben Crump says, "Where's the video? Show it to us." I'm saying, where's the video? Show it to us.
We did. Guess what? We haven't heard from you since. I don't recall ever you going on your show and saying, okay, I got it wrong. Nope. There is no truth. There is no reality with these people. It's all just a story. The story they want you to hear.
It was coming out of a Family Dollar. There has to be video footage around here somewhere of this. And one thing
Young man coming out of the Family Dollar. See, he's bought right into it.
I want to say is that it's very frustrating when eyewitness account is usually thrown out as something that's not necessarily reliable.
Oh yeah, it's terrible that they sometimes throw out these eyewitness reports because they're sometimes not reliable. Damn it, why do they do that? It's because they typically are very unreliable. And in this case here, they were outright fabrications.
And I can understand why. But we don't hold that same standard for police reports. The chief of police there set the agenda immediately, backing the officer before the formal investigation. All of that is wrong. Where's the video? Show us proof.
There you go. All right. We will continue to bring you updates as they come.
You're going to bring us updates as they come, huh?